Joining me now to talk about some of the top issues facing cattlemen and women is Kendal Frazier, CEO of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, and Craig Uden, a cattleman from Nebraska and NCBA president-elect. Gentlemen, thanks so much for coming to Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Kevin.
Craig, I want to ask you, why is it so important for NCBA to have a presence here in Washington?
As a producer, I need to know that we have my interests protected every day. And why we have it in D.C. is the same reason the states have theirs in their capitals as well, because that's where the action takes place. That is where we're out there to educate and engage with these congressmen, this administration. So we need that. It's another tool in my toolbox for my industry.
Kendal, I'd ask you, now that we have this presidential election behind us, what's your sense of the outcome of that for beef cattle producers?
Well, first of all, Kevin, there was a loud voice that came from rural America directed at Washington, D.C., that there needs to be change. And that voice will mean a new Congress and a new administration. And we're hopeful that the regulatory environment that we've been under for the past several years will change, and that private property rights will be respected, and that the regulations that have been put on our industry will see no more of that. In fact, some that are on and proposed will be lifted.
And what's your sense of some of the key issues that need to be addressed before this lame duck session ends?
Well, Congress still has to fund the federal government, and there are two issues that are very important to the cattle industry that are going to be considered. One would be to make sure that the sage grouse, which is really important to Western ranchers, is not listed as an endangered species. The other one would be to stop EPA from implementing the Waters of the United States rule, which is a massive intrusion on private property rights.
You know, Craig, we just heard from Senator Daines talking about Transpacific Partnership. What's your outlook, and where do we go from here relative to the TPP?
Well, you know, we heard a lot of rhetoric with the campaigns, but trade is vital for our industry. As we see our protein and other proteins growing in the U.S., if we want to maintain viability for our industry, we have to have access and a place to go with this product. You know, 96% of all people live outside of our borders. There's growing GDPs out there, and they're looking to fulfill their diets. We might as well fill that challenge, and we have a very wholesome, safe, delicious product produced by the best producers in the world. So we need that access.
One last question to both of you. As we look at this new Congress and new administration, what is NCBA's plans for getting folks up to speed on the beef industry and the priorities of our industry?
First, over the last years, we've greatly expanded our Washington office and our presence here in Washington, D.C. We've added staff and resources into our Washington office. So we've got to reach out now to the new administration and new Congress and rebuild some relationships that we've had for a long time, and build some new relationships, Kevin.
And what would you add, Craig?
Well, I think it is all about relationships and having Congress and Senate understand our issues, as well as this administration. We think that there's a lot of opportunities here, but there's always going to be challenges in the beef industry. So we have to stay engaged with our congressmen, because that's who's going to make the vote, and that's who's going to help us with our issues out there.
Thanks so much for coming. We'll talk to you both just a little later.